This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You gotta work. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome. Lembit Öpik here for whatever length of time we decide to talk. Welcome to the conversation that is on not everyone's lips, on some people's lips. Is Keir Starmer toast? I think so. I think he's been toast for a long time. I don't think he's actually really running the country. The country's running him. But what we're discussing today is the fact that various members of his own cabinet seem to be ganging up against him. And certainly the opinion polls aren't exactly on his side as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we go any further, though, thank you so much for subscribing. If you have, if you haven't, why not? Go to our YouTube on Unprecedented TV and just press the button. It's free. And then you get access to hundreds and hundreds of shows. And unlike Keir Starmer, we intend to be here for the long term. Right, let's talk about Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. How is he doing? What do you think? Is he finished, or is he just going through a bad patch? Maybe you think he's doing very well. Put your comments in the quote area, in the commentary there. But my view is, and here's my opinion, he's failed from the get-go. He's failed from the point he became leader of the Labour Party. I think he did a terrible job as head of the Crown Prosecution Service. Didn't seem to notice that Jimmy Savile was up to some very bad things. Didn't seem to notice what was going on over in Harrods, but was obsessed with trying to get a friend of mine, Nigel Evans, prosecuted, and failed to do that as well, quite rightly, because Nigel was innocent, as the court proved. So we've got this man who's got a rather bad record, in my view, but keeps bragging about the fact that he was head of the CPS. Now he's head of the country, which basically means he serves us. But he's not serving us very well, is he? A little bit like the storm behind me. He just causes disruption. Is he finished? Or is he going to carry on in his role? I predict that he'll probably make it to May, but not beyond that. Why? Because there'll be local elections then, and I think he's going to fail. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk to somebody who knows far more about politics than me out there. It's Nick Buckley, MBE. You must know more because you've got an MBE. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
Not bad at all. I've been watching the mainstream media so that you don't have to. And Wes Streeting, who's one of the other clowns on the cabinet, has been talking rather intensely about the fact he's not trying to take over from Keir Starmer. Well, we always know when somebody says they're not trying to take over,
Yes.
They must be doing it. Big picture here. How do you think Keir Starmer's doing, Nick?
It's a question that no one needs. It's a question that no one needs to answer. We all know how he's doing. He started failing within weeks of being in the job. He was failing then. After he was elected in, was it July? I was saying publicly I didn't think he'd make the first Christmas. That's how bad he was doing, almost from day one. But he surprised me that he's lasted longer than the first Christmas. So he's on, a year and a half now. I thought he'd do 6 months.
Yeah, I thought you were going to burst into a George Michael song there. You didn't, yeah. I didn't have any doubt that he'd make it to now. I assumed he'd make it to the next general election, but I could be wrong about that now, because it seems to me that he's faltering in front of his own people. Let's think about what's he doing badly. What's he doing badly?
Everything.
Okay, well, that's a good answer. that kind of, there he is.
If you want a bit more detail,
Look at the chappy there. Look at his happy little face.
Yeah. Nothing. I mean, first of all, nothing's gone right for him, which some of that isn't his fault, but nothing's gone right for him. His biggest flaw is he hasn't got the personal charisma. That's his biggest flaw. We've had many pathetic, weak, stupid prime ministers in the past, but they could speak to a crowd. They could speak, online, not online, to camera. He has really poor communication skills. That on top of incompetence and no idea. And I'd even get to a stage where I don't even think he loves the country. You add all that together, and you probably have the biggest failure of a prime minister, definitely in my lifetime.
I have to say he's the worst prime minister I've ever seen. My answer to my own question is he's failed because he doesn't have a presence. Somebody I know who is very versed in psychology says he's got shallow consciousness. He doesn't really relate. He doesn't understand. I've met people like that, and often they're sociopathic. They pretend to have feelings, but they're just aping what they see other people doing. They don't actually have personal presence. And certainly his behavior with Donald Trump, I think that's been a very interesting one, because he comes across with Donald Trump as somebody who just isn't there. Trump, whether you like him or not, he's got a great presence. But just, can we get that picture of Donald Trump and Keir Starmer up again? And yeah, there he is. Basically, it's almost like like an adult with a child. Trump just tolerates him because he has to, but I just don't feel that there's any real presence. So from a psychological point of view, I just don't think he's got it.
He hasn't, but those photos are great for Starmer. That's why he's never in the country. That's why he's always meeting foreign leaders and going to different international organizations, because him being seen next to real leaders, he hopes some of that will brush off on him in the eyes of the public back at home. When was the last time you seen him out and about? When was the last time he turned up somewhere in this country with real public, not 17 Labour members who were handpicked to stand behind him as if they were members of the public? Because when he turns up somewhere, he's booed. When he turns up somewhere, people dislike him, and he can't speak to a crowd unless it's set questions that he's practiced the answers to. So that's why he spends a lot of time abroad, and that's why he wants to be next to these leaders, especially Trump, because he wants some of Trump's glitter, a tiny bit of it. He wants that to rub off on him. If he's next to Trump, maybe he's a world leader. Maybe other people respect him. So therefore, maybe I should respect him. I think that's the psychology of what he's trying to do.
It's interesting that you say that, because in my view, every time he's with these world leaders, he looks worse. Maybe that's why he hangs around with Macron, because Macron makes him look better. You got to think about the fact that he hangs around with losers, basically. One of the things that I've noticed is he's very happy to be seen with Zelensky. I've almost forgotten his name, because he's out of the press at the moment, because Zelensky isn't pop. There he is. There he is. The Starmer between two losers. You got Zelensky on one side and Macron on the other. Macron, who seems to spend a very large proportion of his time trying to prove that he's married to a woman. I've never really known a world leader so determined to prove this. Why would you have to? Okay, that's a different story. So he hangs around with these C-grade politicians. Let's look at what's happening in the Labour Party. Wes Streeting, who I don't rate at all. I think he's a complete lightweight. He's been, if you're watching this live, he's been on the national media saying he's not trying to replace Keir Starmer. Well, there's no point in him replacing Keir Starmer, because he wouldn't be any better. But what's going on there? How is it that we've got somebody that Starmer himself appointed denying that he's trying to depose Starmer?
You sat in the House of Commons for a long time.
I did.
You know that when the Prime Minister is there, you know there's 649 people in that chamber all looking at the Prime Minister going, I'd like your job. Every single person in that chamber wants to be Prime Minister. Most of them realise they'll never become Prime Minister, and that's a given. I'd like to be Prime Minister. There's nothing wrong in wanting to run the country you live in. But his front bench and his backbenchers are looking at the state of the party. They're looking at the opinion polls, and they're saying to themselves now, I'm gone at the next election. I'm gone because look how low we are in the polls. We've got another couple of years to turn this around. We cannot turn it around with Keir Starmer. We've given him a year and a half. We know he can't turn it around. He hasn't got the PR style. He's incompetent, blah, blah, blah. He's got a bad record now, a bad reputation. He has to go. So all the front bench now are going, well, I can do better than him. And everyone on the front bench will think they can do better than him because we all think we can do better than him. And they all want the top job. So they're all beginning to position themselves now. Andy Burnham had a go at the Labour conference, trying to position himself to be the king across the water. But they're beginning to do it because they know they're going to get another slacking at the May elections. And if Starmer's still PM in May will be when he goes after that drubbing they're going to get. But don't forget, even a member of parliament who knows they're going to be deselected and kicked out and not voted in at the next election, they would rather be prime minister for 2 months than never be prime minister. So they're all looking now at Starmer going, who's going to put the knife in his back? And they all know whoever puts a knife in his back never becomes prime minister, never wears the crown. So everyone is trying to kill Starmer off without leaving fingerprints on the dagger, because then they won't become the next king.
You mentioned Andy Burnham. You stood against him, as far as I recall.
Yeah.
And actually, I quite rate him compared to some of the others. I think he's a bit more grown up, but he had a go and got knocked down in a sense. But then we've got Wes Streeting, who to me is a complete lightweight, and that's a rather unflattering picture of him there. Appropriately enough in that picture, Keir Starmer's out of focus, but Wes Streeting, I don't understand why he thinks he could be a prime minister. I previously entertained the prospect that he might try, but he's just so lightweight. Is that all the Labour Party's got now? Well,
let's have a look at who he'd be competing against. So Wes Streeting. So would you like David Lammy? Would you like Angela Rayner? Would you like Rachel Reeves? Would you like Lucy Powell? I mean, you start going through the front bench and you start going, well, Streeting isn't too bad after all. So I mean, it's such a low bar that it's very hard to criticize Wes Streeting when you see who the competitions are going to be.
I have to say, my money would be on David Lammy. I think he'd be hilarious. I think it'd be absolutely hilarious if he got to be the prime minister. Every time Keir Starmer's out of the country on a Wednesday and David Lammy's in from, I think to myself, that is just comedy gold, because he's so bad. I don't know if you saw him recently when he didn't actually realize that various prisoners, I don't think he realized that prisoners, or knew that prisoners had been thrown out of, walked out of prison. And then he said, oh, yeah, well, I couldn't talk about it at the time because it was sensitive information. And then an hour later, he did talk about it. And that guy he's the deputy prime minister. I mean, what the devil is wrong with the Labour Party if that's the best they can do?
He's not the best they can do. He's just the best DEI box ticking candidate they can do. That's all he's ever been. He's we've got a black male. Oh, get the black male out. Put the black male on TV. Give the black male a job. Give the black male a better job. Oh, look at us. We're fantastic. We're the Labour Party.
I actually watched or listened to an interview with an incredibly unintelligent person, Alex something Jones. Davis Jones, I can't remember her name now, but she was just a Labour minister. And they were saying about David Lammy, after he completely screwed it up, not knowing that various prisoners, he's a justice minister, by the way, folks. The justice minister didn't know that various prisoners had accidentally been released. And she said, oh, well, he's black. Pardon?
Did she say that?
Yes, he said it on BBC Radio 4's Today programme. She said, oh, well, he's the first black deputy prime minister. As some kind of defence,
Yeah.
but for why he didn't know, or why he was in the post and he didn't seem to know anything about his role. I just thought to myself, that's just cringingly embarrassing. Yeah.
It's cringingly bad for people like me and you, for the average person with common sense, but it's brownie points for their voter base. Because don't forget, Labour are always promoting and sending messages to their voter base. They know people with common sense, people, you know, on the middle right and never voting for Labour. They know their only chance of success is coalescing the left and the far left. So every time you hear a Labour politician speak, you have to remember that we're not their audience. Their audience is that 20% of the population that if they vote for Labour, they get back into power again. So they're aiming for that all the time.
But do they really? Does that 20% even respect David Lammy? He's such a fool.
Yeah.
David Lammy is so unintelligent.
Because he's black.
But
They respect him.
I mean, do people actually vote on the basis of skin color? It sounds racist to me.
Some people will, but some people who deep down inside know David Lammy is an idiot will also vote for David Lammy because that's subconscious racism on my part. And if I want to be a good person, then I'm going to have to vote for the black man, the incompetent black man, because if I don't, then that's white supremacy. And I can't be a white supremacist. So these are the mental gymnastics the far left have implanted in many people on the left.
Oh, the far left. You don't hear that very often. There's always the far right. We're all far right now, as Dominic Frisby's famous song goes. Before we go further, I have to talk about somebody who's far into telling you the truth. That's Claire Dyer with Dire Consequences. She puts herself in the line of trouble. She's had so much trouble herself. She literally campaigns till 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes. Watch this. That's Claire Dyer, Dire Consequences. She works so hard. The right things to do there, Claire, and you're very brave as well. I have to say, Nick Buckley, MBE, I'd much rather have Claire Dyer as the Prime Minister than the Dyer person.
I thought you were going to say that I'd rather have Claire Dyer as a guest. I thought that's what you were going to say.
That's imposter syndrome. That's imposter syndrome. I'd rather have Keir Starmer as a guest for one reason, because a million people would watch and he would be toast. And the subject of our program today is Starmer's toast. Makes it sound like he's having breakfast. But, I've never known your humility to reach to that level. Claire Dyer would be a great guest, of course, but you're even better for our purposes. Everything seems to be going wrong under Labour though, and under Starmer. We've even got the BBC, which is now potentially going to be sued for $1 billion because of their Panorama show, where they basically did the same as the Labour Party. Panorama spliced together 2 bits of a speech 54 minutes apart, and now they're still saying it's just an error of judgment. It wasn't an error of judgment. It was fraud. It was fake news. And this is all under Labour. So I can't directly blame Labour for the BBC's demise, but it just seems to me that everything's going wrong.
Everything's going wrong because we think he's the captain of the ship. But what we don't realize is many decades ago, that rudder broke. So we still have captains of the UK ship, but the ship is just going where the tide is taking it all the time, because we haven't got anyone strong enough to grab that rudder and take us to a better destination. Hence why, I mean, Starmer now is basically a dead duck. He's floating in the water. He looks like he's alive, but he's a dead dog just bobbing around on the water. He can't control his back benches. The economy looks like it's going to collapse any day because he can't make any cuts. They've spent too much money. They've given the public sector huge pay rises. The backbenchers want even more and more and more. We've got more strikes. We've got more strikes coming because the public sector can smell blood. And of course, they want more money. Who wouldn't want more money? And nothing is going right at all. And like we started this program, there's real rumors now that he could be toppled, that people on the benches now behind him are going, we need him gone. So nothing is going right at all. And some of the things are not his fault. You know, the way he handled the Southport massacre. Yeah. The massacre itself wasn't his fault, but the way he handled it and everything destroyed his reputation. He was only in power 2 or 3 weeks when that happened. So some things have been external, but even the external things is handled extremely poorly.
We've got a poll graph. I couldn't really understand it before we came on air, and I still don't completely understand it. But it gives an indication of, there it is. It gives an indication of what's going on. I think that's meant to be Keir Starmer's popularity. Right. Certainly, his popularity, as far as I can see, is absolutely just crashing. I think he's the most unpopular prime minister in history, unless I'm mistaken. Less popular than the storm behind me, I think. And you sort of hear the moaning by Labour activists who just say, "Oh, he shouldn't be going after reform. He should be doing his own thing," but they can't really explain what he should be doing.
He's tried to do what he wants to do, and look what it's done. It's sped up turning the country into a basket case. It's sped up crashing the economy. Those were things he's been doing, and everything he's done has been wrong. Labour activists can't tell us what he should be doing more of, because what they want more of is exactly the things that's killing the country. They all want to spend more money on public services. They want higher taxes on the rich. And every time you do that, more rich people leave the country. And eventually, the people who come into the term rich will be 90% of the population who will be tagged as the rich. And that'll be, you're not using food banks, you must be rich. But their strategy, and I've said this before, I think on this show, their strategy between now and the general election, whenever that comes, will be painting Reform UK as Hitler and the Nazis. Because at the election, the choice, Labour will say to the country, the choice is Labour, because we're the only ones who can win on the left. Lib Dems can't, the Greens can't, SNP can't, your party can't. We're the only ones who can left. You've got to vote for us, because if you don't vote for us, we've got the new Nazis. So the choice is Labour or the Nazis, and they're going to paint that picture more and more and more as we build up to the election. I don't think it's a winning strategy, but that is their strategy.
And well, they got another strategy as well Rachel from complaints, not accounts, actually from complaints. They've actually got the budget coming up as well, and this is what Rachel from accounts said some time ago. Reeves tells firms no more tax rises as she defends budget. That was last year. She's hardly a great catch, is she?
No, I'm going to make a prediction here. So it's on camera. It'll be in your library, so I can always point people back to it if it turns out I'm right. If it turns out I'm wrong, I'll be asking you to delete this episode. I don't think she's going to raise income tax, national insurance, or VAT. She promised not to, but people break promises all the time. But she promised not to. I don't think she can, because her backbenchers will rip her to pieces, and she's already a failing chancellor. the Prime Minister is already a failing Prime Minister, that will be enough to push them both over the edge. If one of these goes, they both go. I think they're going to kick the problem, our financial problem, down the road. I think they're going to look at some tax rises, but it'll be things like, increase in petrol duty. It will be green vehicles. It'll be all the things that we don't think are really tax, and they'll sort of get away with it. It won't raise that much money, but they'll raise some money on that, and they will use the budget to say, look, we told you we could be trusted. We've got bad times, which is not our fault. It's the miners from the 80s fault. It's this, it's that. But we promised you we'd never raise these taxes, and we're not going to, because we're the only party you can trust. Look what we've had for 2 weeks. Everyone's saying we're going to break our promises, but we made a promise to you, the British public, and we're decent. And that they're going to use this as PR to try to give them a little bit of glitter, a little bit of fairy dust over their failed policies. Even though we do need, and they're not going to cut public spending because they can't. I think they're playing a big game of Jenga. I think they're pulling one or two more pieces out, and they're just hoping they won't be in power in 2 years' time when it all comes crashing down.
Well, there will be. They'll be in power till 2029. They're not going to have an election before they have to.
They're not going to vote for an election, but external events, I cannot see them lasting a full term. Something's going to happen that forces a general election.
But there's no system for that. They've got over 400 members of parliament. You said yourself that they are concerned about losing their seats. Why would a Labour MP vote for a general election they think they're going to lose their job in?
They wouldn't, but half of me is hoping. I suppose half of me is living in a dream world here that I hope this happens. That something happens where they have to go to the public, and let's say the economy crashes. We have to go to the IMF for a bailout, and the cuts that's going to entail will be absolutely horrendous. The backbenchers all go, we can't have any of that, and then the external pressure. I think I'm half hoping.
Well, this is the thing. I'm wondering if this is the hope of triumph of hope over expectation, because from my point of view, there's literally no reason for Keir Starmer to go, or whoever takes over, to go to the polls, because Wes Streeting, he'd be a tragic campaigner, I think. So I can't see how that would happen. Also, Reform UK, which is obviously the favourite at the moment to become the next government, though I think there are issues with that. They're not ready. They do need another 4 years to get ready. So in whose interest would it be to go early?
The countries. Countries. Reform are never going to be ready, as in we don't need Reform to be ready. If Reform win the election, Reform then need to bring in experienced people. Being ready for government, I think, is the wrong strategy, because what you're doing is you're getting ready to play the game they want you to play. We need someone going into power who says, I'm not playing your game. I don't care how this should be done. I don't care how it's always been done. I'm coming in here with a hatchet and we're just going to hack you to pieces, and we're going to get done what we want to get done, the way we want it to be done. We're not playing your game anymore. So I think the more Reform are practicing to get into power, I think it's going to be worse for them.
Final area I want to cover is the mystery of those handsome young Ukrainian-born men who were arrested, as far as I recall, for allegedly torching Keir Starmer's property. There's a lot of curiosity in this. 2 men plead not guilty of the fires at homes linked to Prime Minister. They seem to have an awful lot of knowledge about Keir Starmer's property, but it's all gone quiet. So there are rumours that there's some kind of an injunction that stops certain people from talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. There must be a super injunction. There must be. The reason why we're in this mess is the news of the world. The news of the world went too far and started tapping people's phones, and it all got out, and it bankrupted and destroyed the news of the world, which is gone now as a paper.
Yeah.
But they were investigatory journalists. They would dig the dirt, sometimes unfairly, sometimes fairly. But then some new legislation was passed to make sure that didn't happen again. And all the political parties wanted that legislation passed because that protected them from the newspapers. 10, 20 years ago, this story would be still the front page Sunday story every week until we got to the bottom of it. But papers now are too scared to report the truth and to hold politicians to account because they're going to be sued, because there's a law here where they could be arrested potentially. And we don't have a free press anymore now because the press want to report this. The press want to examine this and get to the bottom of this. But it's being deemed by judges, I would imagine, as this is personal. If our prime minister is a bisexual man who likes to use Eastern European rent boys and do him froggy style, well, that's his personal choice, and we shouldn't interfere with that. Therefore, it's not in the public interest, and this is bad for democracy.
Well, yeah, obviously you're using that as a figurative example.
Yes.
My concern is that poor Keir Starmer is in danger, and we have a public interest to make sure he's safe. And so we should know what happened and how these three alleged criminals, alleged, nothing's been proved yet, and won't be proved before April next year. I'll talk about the timing in a moment. I want to know how they were able to threaten the Prime Minister's property, and I'd like the security to be improved. The timing is absolutely abysmal for Starmer because the trial is just before the local elections. I'm not sure who thought that one up. I think they wanted to kick it into the long grass. That's my suspicion. But
I think they will. I think they've announced it before the local elections, so nobody thinks it's looking dodgy. And as we get closer to that date, it then will be kicked into the long grass.
Well, we shall see. All of which is to say that when you get unlucky in politics, your luck keeps getting worse. That's what seems to happen. I'm going to ask you three predictions now, and they'll go in the archive. First question: do you think Keir Starmer will be Prime Minister this time next year?
No, but I've been saying that every day after 2 weeks of him being elected.
Secondly, if he isn't Prime Minister, who do you think will be? You can only have one name. I'll do the same, by the way. I'll do the same.
My money would still be on Angela Rayner.
Good guess, good, credible prediction. I would put my money on Andy Burnham, but it's tricky because he has to win a by-election first, and I'm not sure Labour can.
I'm not sure Labour. The rumours are for the last few years is Keir Starmer's office has been stopping him standing anywhere.
Well, I'm just not sure he can win anyway because Labour is so unpopular. Even in the Caerphilly by-election, which is a by-election for the Welsh Senate or Assembly, Labour got 11%. They seem incapable of winning anything. And the third question is, do you think that the Conservatives can recover? There's an open goal at the moment. Reform has just got a handful of MPs. The Tories still have over 100. Do you think the Tories can recover?
I think they can. I'm beginning to see one or two green shoots, but they'll never recover with Kemi in charge. And the only way they recover is if they elect someone like Robert Jenrick, and that would scare the hell out of Reform UK. But my understanding is there's too many wets as Tory MPs, and they don't want to go down that path. So even though Jenrick, I think, would be the best thing for the Tories, a bit like Burnham, there's no path for him to become leader.
Waiting in the wings, though, we have a political colossus, a giant who could just drape our country in glory. That's Ed Davey.
Well, Well, just before World War II, everybody thought Churchill was over, but he sat there in the wings waiting for cometh the hour, cometh the man, and I think Ed Davey is sat there waiting for his turn to save the country, and the day we get to that position is the day hell freezes over.
I used to share an office suite with Ed Davey. Never did I think he would become leader of the party. But there you go. I didn't think I was going to lose either. Actually, I did towards the end of it, but there you go. Thanks very much, Nick. Should people be optimistic or pessimistic on the basis of our conversation today?
Optimistic. If you'd have told me a year ago these are all the things that would be happening in the country a year later, such as raising the colours, the flags, the people waking up, people demonstrating at migrant hotels, Keir Starmer's popularity crumbling, us holding all politicians in contempt, the British, especially the English people saying we've had enough. If you'd have told me this a year ago, I'd have snapped your hand off for that. Things are changing. Things are changing fast. Things are going to get worse before they get better. But honestly, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I'm so more optimistic today than I was a year ago.
Thanks very much indeed. That's Nick Buckley, MBE. We celebrate his intelligent views. I'd love to know yours as well. Do get involved in the chat. That chat will continue right through the morning if you're watching it live. You've had some predictions. If you're watching this on the archive, you can compare what Nick Buckley and I have said with the reality. I'll finish on one concluding thought. It's quite obvious that Keir Starmer, in my opinion, is a lame duck. I think that Nick Buckley is completely right about that. But I don't see anybody really who's credible taking over. I would love to see David Lammy as Prime Minister. I think that would be the gift that keeps on giving. But I think that Labour's finished. I think whatever they do now, they can't win the next election. The question is, can anyone do any better? Or is the country ruined? You have your say on that. You can also, of course, contact us directly in the chat and also on X. Follow me on Lembit Öpik. That's at Lembit Öpik. I'm the one with the blue tick. Thanks very much indeed to the team. Thanks to Nick Buckley, MBE. More than anything, thanks to you for having the courage to think for yourself. I'm Lembit Öpik. This was Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.